matrix method. Now, of course, you can solve it using an augmented matrix, but if this is a test question, you're expected to show your work, and the instructions say use inverse matrix method, you're going to get 0 if you solve it using an augmented matrix because you didn't follow the instructions. So for the inverse matrix method, we're going to have our coefficient matrix A. So this is not going to be an augmented matrix. We just want the coefficient matrix, which is going to be made up of the coefficients to the left of the equal sign. And my matrix, which we'll call capital X, is going to be my variable matrix, and my variables here are X, Y, and Z. And then my matrix B is going to be my coefficient matrix for what's to the right of the equal sign, so my constants here. And when we set it up this way, we have that. Now, we're meant to solve this, so we're meant to find out what X is. To get X by itself, we can multiply both sides by A inverse if it exists. Now, matrix multiplication is not commutative, so if I'm multiplying the left-hand side here by A inverse, I must multiply A inverse on the left-hand side here. So at this point, a lot of students will just whack on an A inverse on this side, and you can't do that. It won't work because when you try and put that in your calculator in the wrong order, the dimensions don't match as they should for matrix multiplication. So if A inverse exists, which in this case it will. If it doesn't exist, you can't use the inverse matrix method to solve it. Then these will cancel, and this is how I solve for X. So I need to define A and B in my calculator. So because of the glare, I kind of have this on an angle here and need to stay on an angle. Otherwise, if I lay it flat, it's going to have glare. Okay, so let's get into the matrix menu, second X inverse, and let's go over to the editor, and I'm going to define A. And there's an old matrix there already. I'm going to write over the top of it. So I have to tell it the dimensions. A has 3 rows and 3 columns, so 3, 3. And then you have to put your entries in row by row. Make sure you use the negative sign and not the subtraction sign. So I'm just writing over the top of this other matrix. Okay, now when I get to the end, I have to get out, second mode, and get back in. I'm going to go back to the editor, and I'm going to define B now. B has 1, 2, 3 rows and 1 column, so 3, enter, 1, enter. And I have 8, negative 4, and 12. Then get out. And I want to do this multiplication. So I'm on the home screen now, so I'm going to get back in here, and under names I'm going to select A. Puts me back on the home screen. Then I want the inverse, so I'm going to press X inverse, and then I want to multiply it by the matrix B. Get back into the matrix menu. At names, scroll down to B, and now press enter. Okay, so X is equal to 4, 0, 0, but this tells me X is equal to 4, Y is equal to 0, and Z is equal to 0. So sometimes you'll be asked to find X, Y, Z, but write it in point form. Sometimes you'll be asked for that. So always follow the instructions on how they want you to express your answer. All right, my very last problem now. Suppose A is this matrix and A inverse exists, and X is my variable matrix and B is this matrix. If A times X equals B, solve the equation. Well, once again, if I'm going to solve the equation, the only thing that's unknown is the matrix X here. So I have to get X by itself. So again, the way to do that over here is if I multiply A by its inverse, then they'll cancel and I'll be left with X. I have to do the same thing over here, and matrix multiplication is not commutative. The order matters. You must multiply that on the left-hand side. So after I do that, those will cancel, and this will be the way I solve for x. X equals A inverse times B. So I have to get A and B defined in my calculator. Again, A is a 3 by 3. And I'm just going to put these in there. When you get to the end, get out, get back in. And again, I have a 3 by 1. Okay, and get out. So I want A inverse times B. Okay, so get into the matrix menu. Under name, select A. Just enter. Then press the X inverse button. Then times. Get back into the matrix menu. And under names, pick out B. And then press enter. Now, we want our answers as fractions. So if you want your answer as a fraction, press math button and then enter, enter. And so this is my solution for my variable matrix. And if you were asked for individual values, then, you know, what is x? That's your x, that's your y, and that's your z. Okay. And again, if you're told to write your answer in this form, then you'd write it like that. So just always follow the instructions. They can differ from question to question in WebWorks because WebWorks is made up of so many different textbooks. That ends this video.